what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, brought stars and bright stars through the perilous fight. For the ramparts we walked were so gallantly and the rockets reckless, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you, Representative Martin. My name is Laura Treishman. I am the State Historic Preservation Officer of Vermont, and it is my honor to welcome you on behalf of Governor Peter Shumlin, Secretary Pat Moulton, and the Vermont Division for Historic Preservation to the 125th anniversary dedication of the Bennington Battle Monument. Ownership of the monument was transferred out on what was described as a perfect New England day in August 1891 by the Bennington Battle Monument Association to then Governor Carroll Page, who of course graciously accepted. This impressive monument stands where in August 1777, General John Stark brought volunteers from New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and Vermont to defend the military stores of weapons and food collected on this spot. The first celebration to commemorate the battle, which took place 10 miles away, occurred here just 1 year after that battle. It was organized by two young people who had just moved to Vermont, decided they wanted to make their fortune in the Great Republic. So you advance 100 years to 1877, when President Rutherford B. Hayes attended a great gathering assembled in Bennington, and with imposing ceremonies celebrated the anniversary of the battle. This celebration was to inaugurate the design of a commemorative monument. 10 years later, in August 1887, the newspaper Bennington Banner told of an interesting and imposing gathering on this spot when the cornerstone of this magnificent structure was laid. The newspaper said the monument promised to be beautiful and artistic in design, massive in structure, which shall in the coming ages mark one of the most important localities of our land. The events of 1891, when the monument was dedicated, brought thousands of people from across the United States. There was a parade with over 300 carriages that took 30 minutes to pass the reviewing stand. 40 dignitaries were in the beginning of the parade, and it included President Benjamin Harris, half of his cabinet, many current and former governors of Vermont and our neighboring states, legislators, congressional delegates, the National Guard, West Point cadets, military veterans, and of course several marching bands. I want you just to envision that great day in 1891 when there were only 44 states making up the United States, which was home to 63 million people. It was the Gilded Age and the Progressive Era. In 1891, Thomas Edison patented the motion picture camera and the radio. The first gas-powered car was debuted. The electric railway and the Swiss Army knife were patented. The National Forest Service was founded. Sherlock Holmes was born, and the first game of basketball was played. Unfortunately, for those having to walk the many hundreds of steps in the Battle Monument, the escalator had only just been patented that year. And luckily for the 3,500 people who enjoyed the banquet after the dedication ceremony, the newly formed delicacy of Spam was not yet common to our table. As Governor Page proclaimed that day, this monument shall stand here untouched, saved by the finger of time, to tell to our children and our children's children the story. The story of those who fought for the founding of this country, for the protection of what was stored on this very spot, for the veterans who participated in subsequent battles, and those of us who benefit from those various struggles for liberty. Here, on the 125th anniversary of the monument's dedication, we also remember those devoted to creating this towering memorial. Today, I especially want to take a final moment to thank all of you for your continued appreciation, support, and love for this landmark. For over 125 years, the many caretakers, like Marylou, volunteers, section chiefs like Tracy, neighbors, friends, legislators, and touring visitors have all played a part in ensuring this monument stands here untouched to tell a story, and what a story that is. So again, thank you very much for coming today. I want to start with one of our many speakers from 1891 on that hot and long dedication day was Edward J. Phelps. He was a prominent Vermont politician who was designated as orator that day. So acting as Edward Phelps is Don Miller from the Friends of the Bennington Battle Monument.
Yes, I'm Edward Phelps, and there were many dignitaries and honorary people at that event. 125th anniversary of the battle, this year's 225th also of statehood. So at that time they recognized, I guess, the 100th of statehood and the dedication of the battle monument. But let me introduce myself a little bit further, because you probably don't know much about me. And I'll do that in the third person, if you don't mind. So, Edward Phelps was born and raised in Vermont, in Middlebury. He entered Middlebury College at the age of 14, and he graduated at the age of 17. He then went to Yale Law School, and after law school he practiced law in New York City and in Burlington before evolving more into teaching. Until the end of his life he held a professorship at Yale, so he taught law there. But he was also a very frequent speaker at Harvard and Boston University and many other places. He also got into diplomacy. In the 1880s, for a half a dozen years, he was the ambassador to the court of St. James in London, and they're highly respected individual. He went on to become the senior counsel for a controversy between England and the United States, a maritime thing, and he presented, not today, but he presented the final argument which took him 13 days. So this is going to be shorter, really. And he also was one of the founding members of the American Bar Association and served as its president, 1880 to 1881. And so we advance to him being the keynote speaker at the dedication. He broke his speech, or I broke his speech, into three parts. One about the battle itself, one about statehood, because that was the 100th anniversary of statehood that year, and a third part about what this monument means to all of us. So I'm going to, if you don't mind, read it, just short excerpts. If you ever get a chance, the entire speech is really beautiful. It's very poetic. This guy was quite good at oratory, and it was not just his delivery, but the way he crafted the speech. Large parts of this speech, which I may not be able to capture, are very, very poetic. So I urge you to find it and to read it. So I'll break it into three parts. First, history is full of battles. All its pages are stained with blood, instruments for the most part of ambition, of tyranny, of crime. It would have been well for the world to be spared the misery they wrought. It would be well for its history if their memory could perish. But there have been battles nevertheless, whose smoke went up like incense, consecrated in the sight of heaven by the cause they maintained. Such was that for which this shaft shall henceforth stand. If battles were to be accounted great in proportion to the numbers engaged, Bennington would be but small in comparison with Marathon and Waterloo and Gettysburg. It was in that view only an affair of outposts, but it is the cause that is fought for, the heroism and self-sacrifice displayed, and the consequences which follow, moral and political, as well as military, that give significance to conflicts of arms. Judged by these standards, Bennington may well be reckoned among the memorable battles of the world. Its consequences were immediate and far-reaching. It was the first success of the revolution which bore any fruit. Its guns sounded the first notes in the knell which announced that the power of Great Britain over the colonies she had created was passing away. Burgoyne heard it and knew what it meant. Washington heard it, and hearing it, took heart again. Confidence replaced despair. Gates succeeded Schuyler in command at Saratoga, and the militia poured into his camp. The invincibility of the British commander was gone. He fought desperately, but in vain, and on the 17th of October, he surrendered. If Bennington had not been fought, or had not been fought without success, the junction between Clinton and Burgoyne could not have been prevented, and this surrender would not have taken place. Quoting Burgoyne, "If I had succeeded there," he wrote to his government, "I should have marched to Albany." Now, secondly, on statehood, Phelps said, "Under this Constitution, Vermont, already for 13 years an independent community, became an independent state, subject to no national jurisdiction. She executed from 1777 to 1791 all the powers of sovereignty and maintained herself against New York, against Congress. She fought through the Revolution on her own account. With the help of Massachusetts and New Hampshire, defended herself. The state flag that still flies over us was the flag of that earliest day." The contest of the colonies in the Revolution was against taxation without representation. That of Vermont, through the war and 8 years after, was against confiscation without representation. No opposition by Great Britain upon, no oppression by Great Britain upon America approached that sought to be visited by Congress and New York upon Vermont, while she was fighting side by side with them to her last man and last dollar in the struggle for national independence. And third, this earth is studded with monuments. From the earliest period of recorded time, mankind has striven for a language more durable than words, in which human memories might be perpetuated. They have found it chiefly in the symbolism of monumental architecture. But for the employment of that language, there must be sentiments to be transmitted, worthy of its grandeur. In those lie the appeal to futurity, not in the medium of expression, however powerful or impressive. And therefore it is that the most imposing and venerable of such structures known to the world only stand silently over the grave of the dead past. They have no history to relate, no lesson to teach. We regard them with wonder, but without instruction. Not such the destiny of the memorial we dedicate here. Its grand silence shall be perpetually eloquent. Its teaching shall never cease. It shall carry forward the history of those early days, of all that made Bennington, of all that Bennington brought to pass. It shall tell the story not only of Stark and Warner and Chittenden, the Allens and the Fays and the Robinsons, but the multitude of their humble associates, less conspicuous, but just as devoted, who lived and died for Vermont, whose names are only written in the memory of God. The child shall learn from these stories the first instincts of patriotism. The wayfarer to whose foreign ear our English tongue conveys no sense shall not fail of their meaning, but all the dwellers upon the soil, as the years go on, shall be reminded and admonished what manner of man an American might be.
Thank you very much. Next we have a guest speaker. David McWilliams is reenacting Senator Justin Morrill. Senator Morrill was very influential in helping getting this monument for us. He did not speak on that day, so I ask that Mr. McWilliams keep it short and simple as we make our way to cake and cupcakes. Please, sir.
It is true, when you notified me to keep my speech brief, well, I didn't know if you were in earnest, because no one knows better than yourself that members of Congress are never brief. Nonetheless, I shall try my best to be brief. The crowd of visitors brought together here today offer sufficient proof that we have assembled to celebrate no ordinary occasion, but to celebrate a great historic event of the Revolution, the Battle of Bennington. The construction of this monument, and also for the purpose of commemorating another event, that is the birth of this state, of a free and independent state, never a colony of King George, and never under territorial tutelage. We sat in nobody's lap, although the Yorkers showed a strong disposition to hug us, but in looking over this beautiful country, I can hardly blame them for that attention. Very likely, if it had not been for Ethan Allen and the Green Mountain Boys, it will be remembered that Vermont was the first state to be admitted into the Union after a little reluctant delay on the part of Congress, on a square footing with the original 13. I have always pitied anyone so unfortunate as to not have been born in Vermont, and especially those unable to claim any share in the glory of the Battle of Bennington here. It was a battle gallantly fought and won, and in its result, it was big with the fate of the nation. I trust that we shall always rally to every call as to the sound of a trumpet which summons us to commemorate that revolutionary event, so honorable to the ancient virtues of the people of our state. This monument, which stands majestically on this beautiful Bennington hill, a design that cannot fail to be wholly in harmony with its site and its tall severity. It well represents the dignity and spirit of the event which it commemorates. In the 16th of August 1777 marks the eventful epoch of history of our young nation, the victory won for freedom against the British oppression by patriotic Benningtonians and under Colonel Seth Warner and his allies from Massachusetts and New Hampshire under General John Stark, was most providential in turning the tide of war in favor of our young republic. As in words of our late Governor Prescott, this monument stands in memory of the brave men who over 200 years ago on yonder field, over there, surrounded by almost insurmountable difficulties, poorly clad, scantily equipped, without discipline or preparation, but led by heroic leaders with strong arms and hearts, and with a determination never before excelled or if ever equaled, won a complete victory over a well-equipped, well-disciplined, well-officered invading army. All admit it was one of the most decisive battles of the Revolutionary War. The monument here, this amazing monument, here erected is to commemorate that event and will stand as witness to the bravery and patriotism of the participants in that struggle. Now, a little self-congratulatory. How many of you went to a land-grant university? There's 1, 2, 4, land-grant, 3, 4. The others?
One more.
One more. Gotcha. I wrote the legislation that created the land-grant universities, and there's so many universities you may not realize are land-grant colleges. There's University of Vermont in Massachusetts, obviously University of Delaware, and MIT was a land-grant college, as was Cornell. And Massachusetts split its two, so they had the agricultural side was with University of Massachusetts, and the technical or engineering side with MIT. And then later on in 1891, I helped write the legislation that created the predominantly black universities. Our southern states were not willing to allow black students into their universities, and so we helped create ones for them specifically. And later on, there were universities created after my death for the Native American land-grant universities. But I was born and raised here in Vermont, in Stratford, and I do hope you will make a trip up to visit my home. It is in the beautiful colonial town of Stratford, Vermont. Beautiful white colonial houses and one pink Gothic Victorian monstrosity, and that's my home. So please come and visit. Thank you all very much.
As Senator Morrill said, he's got a beautiful pink Gothic Revival house. I welcome you to go all see just around the corner in Stratford. So last but most definitely not least, I would like to introduce our beloved caretaker of the Bennington Battle Monument, Marylou.
important right now. My job is the thank yous. And there's a lot of people to thank to bring this day together. And it's might be like the Academy Awards. If I forget someone, forgive me. But today I want to thank the Bennington Battle Monument and the employees and the volunteers that we have here. I want to thank the Vermont Division for Historic Preservation, which is underwrites the entire operations of the monument. I also want to thank the Friends of the Monument. Without the Friends group, we wouldn't have had the 5K race. We wouldn't have some of the celebrations that we do. We have George McCain, who is the president of the Friends Association, the Friends group. Don Miller, who is also the vice president. Nancy Steffen, who is our secretary and treasurer. Very important people to all the operations of the monument. I also want to thank our representative, Kiah Morris, for leading for her song for the national anthem. I want to thank Brian Campion, Tim Corcoran, our other representatives that are here today. Representative Mary Morrissey is hoping to be here. She's not here at this time. I want to thank Jim Carroll. Where's Jim? One of our selectmen. And there's Jim. I want to thank Laura for coming all the way down from Montpelier, and Tracy Martin, who is, she was down here at the crack of dawn helping out. We have the state archaeologist, Yvonne, and we have Debbie Sayers, who is the person who does most everything in Montpelier. That's true. I want to thank our neighbors because, having this in your neighborhood is different than a quiet neighborhood. So I appreciate the fact that the neighbors are here today. So thank you very much. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Steve, Julie, everyone for coming. I do have to thank Jenica McAvoy for our cake. And she will be cutting the cake very soon. That is a monumental birthday cake. We do have a cake and we have cupcakes for hopefully everybody. There is also ice cream, and that was donated by Wilcox Dairy. We have David B. Lively doing his carriage rides today. So, what did I forget? Oh, Victorian visitors, the girls in the Victorian costumes. They make those dresses, and they're as authentic as you can get. And, aren't they beautiful? Oh, and our barbershop quartet. Thank you, that was terrific.
Maybe they'll sing some more.
How am I doing?
They were very good.
But we will have, Jenica will be cutting the cake. We still have some lemonade, Wilcox ice cream, and and of course Justin Morrill for being here, and Edward Phelps for being here, and Seth Werner for being here. He came all the way from Mount Independence. And somewhere the Green Mountain Boys might be hiding in the trees or something. So, thank you. The monument is open. We are allowing people to walk. It does cost 10 cents today.
How many steps, Marylou?
Can you spare me a dime?
How many steps?
412 steps.
112 steps. That was the only way to get up there in 8
Now, you might have read somewhere that there were 417 steps. We lost 5 of them when they put the elevator in.
Okay.
I
So
don't
it's
know where
way
they
easier to
are.
walk up now.
But they changed the configuration.
Wait. You say it costs 10 cents to go up.
Yes.
How much does it cost to come down?
It's too fast for us.
So our next event is Halloween. The steps are going to be haunted.